Oh, okay. We're good. Hi. Yeah, thanks for everybody coming here today. I guess I was in everybody's shoes at this time last year at Vibe Stations in Toronto, working with Super Team, especially Fib, Simon, and really grateful for being able to present today about I guess founder mindset and really the journey that we've taken up to this point to really bring Titan to where it is, and just getting on the mindset that every single founder would really need in order to propel themselves up to the next level. So just a bit of background on myself first. So I am CEO and co-founder of Titan. So for those of you who don't know, Titan is a salon DEX aggregator, very similar to Jupiter, but we provide the best prices on that side. So we aggregate routers, right? So we not only have our own proprietary router, but we also aggregate other routers like Jupiter, Dflow, OKX, and we just route users to the best price. But that's all about Titan for today. I'm not saying if you have any questions, just let me know afterwards. But really, the background of myself is my background is in equity and crypto hedge funds. So worked in a bunch of them previously. Before Titan, I was at a crypto hedge fund. Before that, I was an equity hedge fund in the US space. So working with very low latency analytics, especially dealing with Bloomberg data, S&P data, and really just bringing all that data in and crunching out thousands of valuation models in under a second. So I guess my experience or my training really is in management, finance, and programming. The programming side came later in my first job, I guess, when my boss tossed a C++ textbook on my desk and just told me to learn it. But my degree was business. I guess I've also had experience in both Toronto and Singapore, and with Titan itself. Over the past year, since I guess we started really running the company, we've managed to raise around $10.5 million in two raises. So $3.5 million last year, and more recently, 7 million this year from a bunch of investors. So I guess just a quick question to the crowd. It's I've talked to a bunch of hedge fund managers, pension fund managers, VC guys, just what skill set do you guys think that they're really looking for when they're looking for any type of founder, any type of employee that they want, or any type of training that they actually want universities to actually train their students with? So
Communication.
kind of. Any other guesses?
Storytelling.
Also kind of. So I guess the main thing that they want everybody to know, and that isn't really well taught to any degree, is really the sales. Because if you think about it, everything in life is just a sale. From getting an interview at a company and just trying to close the job to trying to raise money from investors to trying to just convince your boss that your idea is worth it and worth progressing on that side and get that promotion. Really, everything just comes down to how well can you pitch a product, how well can you pitch an idea, and to let's really iterate over and over on that idea. So the most important thing I would say is figure out how to sell yourself and your product to both your users and investors. You really want to take as much feedback as possible and work around it, and don't get discouraged. You consistently want to improve both your product and your sales tactics. It's if you're working on your golf game, you keep trying to see what works, what doesn't work, and this applies on sales as well. What you really want to see is what pitches, what type of things that you want to sell to investors, what's working and what for what type of investor. You really do want to modify it for based on geography, based on type of person, based off their knowledge. You want to modify how you're talking, and that's really the most important skill set for any type of founder to really know, because ultimately you are the face of the company. You're going to be the ones driving it, and depending on how you do, both finding investors as well as getting consumers on board, you have to sell. So I guess for example, this was the raise that we did for Titan. So as you can see, there's a bunch of angels in there that we convinced personally to invest, as well as a lot of tier one public companies like Galaxy. There's also a bunch of salon-based VCs like Frictionless, Marana, and there's also market makers like Ergonia, Oro, Susquehanna. Each of those types of people, you do have to talk to them in a different manner. If I'm talking to an angel with limited crypto knowledge, it's going to be far different when I'm talking to a Galaxy, which is a public company with a fully fledged VC arm that's doing full analytics. You have to just modify how you talk and how we want to approach them. Geography also does matter because talking to North American, specifically US investors, is actually different from talking to the Canadian ones, different from the European ones, different from the Asian ones. So you want to really segment this out like fully on that side. Just having that mindset is extremely critical as you keep going through these conversations. The other thing I think is really important for founders to do is like get product feedback as quickly as possible. I know like during this process where everybody's trying to come up with an idea, that you were, I guess, required to talk to other people, verify your idea is a good idea. But getting that feedback, especially feedback that's not paid feedback, right, is very important. So this is examples from a bunch of users on Titan. We don't pay them. They like the product so much that they show us on Twitter pretty hard. And you just know what's that drive? What's that reason why people come back? Why do they want to talk about you without you actively paying them for marketing services, right? In Titan's case, it's because we save them money. We're a fast execution platform, and we're like probably a far better alternative for swapping on Solana. That's the reason why people come to us, and that's really the messaging. Now, every project should find their own messaging, what we were building, AI, DPIN, anything like that. But really center yourself. It's like, what's the sell to consumers, which may be different from the sell to investors, right? Because the sell to consumers, like, what can you do to make their life better so that they can actually use the product? The pitch to investors is different. The pitch to them is how can you return their invested capital to them and give them a high enough return where it'll be profitable. Those two pitches are different. So you actually do need a different plan talking to each one. You do need to scope out, what your investment terms are. Are you raising a safe? Are you raising a safe plus token warrant? Are you just going with a SAF model? Those things have to be scoped out for any type of investment to actually work on that side. So what I would say also is that there is no predetermined path. Like all that people can tell you is what they went through. Everybody starts off at a different starting location. For myself, just coming from the hedge fund space, I did have more connections with high net worth individuals to get started and just can talk the VC language more. But if you're coming from a programming space, I would say lean towards your strengths onto there, focus more on the technical side because sales is not only just talking and communicating, it's also getting the facts to back you up. And if that's where your strong suit is, then lean into that heavily. But that's the most important thing. Just leverage off where you are coming from right now and just trying to improve. The other thing is just like consistently iterating on what you're building. Speed is critical, and just trying to wait like 1 or 2 years, that's a lifetime in crypto. Like the equivalent of a year in crypto is probably like 5 years in normal traditional markets on that side. So you need to get feedback fast. You need to, if you think you can raise, you raise as quickly as possible. Because if you're waiting a year, 2 years, the opportunity might just disappear. Data science phase lasted for 2 years back in 2015, 2016. Then it was machine learning. Right now it's in the AI phase. Just a note on the AI things, if you are doing an AI product, just the feedback I've gotten and from what I've seen from investors is the second you say AI, like their attention does turn a bit blank. You really do have to explain why AI is actually improving the product rather than, a be all thing that fixes everything, right? You just have to explain like how AI can actually improve and what's the actual benefit to the consumer instead of using AI as a keyword there. The other thing is just like, keep talking to the community, keep coming out to all these vibe stations, all these events that the community hosts, especially in crypto, and just get, attention, get feedback from people who have experienced very similar things. Although they might have different thoughts, different ideas, different paths, just try and collect all the information, figure out how that works for you is probably the best way for you to determine like how you want to structure your company. It's really up to you to really navigate and pick out what's ideal for you. You don't have to listen to all pieces of advice. Advice from an Ethereum founder back in 2015, it's going to be completely different from a Solana-based founder in 2025. Their thought process is completely different. The regulatory environment is completely different, and they probably have a more academic feel than the revenue focus that Solana does have. The other thing is that, like, as a founder, you probably do have to do whatever it takes to succeed. Like, you do have to step out of your comfort zone because as a founder, you do need to raise capital. You do have to lead the marketing. And, like, I was not as comfortable or nearly anywhere comfortable doing speaking, public speaking, just putting myself out there when I first started. But it's something that is really required of you. Same thing for, I guess, non-technical founders. Like, you do have to really dig into details, really understand coding. I mean, Claude is a great solution these days to really figure out what's happening. But step out of your comfort zone, learn everything as much as you can about your business. But make sure that you also find the best teammates to work with to complement your skills. If you're a non-technical founder, find the best technical partner that you get along with to build a product. Because it's great if you can build on yourself. That's extremely rare. You need a team to succeed because you can't be everywhere at once. And really, speed is the name of the game. You might do everything in 10 years, but by that point, everything's moved along. So if you can get like 4 co-founders just to help you out, just go for it. Because what matters is just getting a product and getting traction going. And another thing is like you probably do have to work as much as is required, plus more. Crypto is 24/7. There's no shut off time for markets in crypto. It's not like 9:30 to 4 p.m. on NYSE, Nasdaq, TSX, stuff like that. So what you really want to do is like you want to probably dedicate as much time and then add even more onto it. Like if you're at the gym, just plug in some things about like listen to some podcasts or just keep on working because like my co-founder like DeFi Pancakes, he does like a full rep of squats and then types on GitHub and does git pulls, git merges on that side before he does another set. So those are the things that you really do have to do to really figure out like what it takes to really succeed and push your company forwards on that side. Yeah, so that's basically it on the founder mindset. I think it's just like you're really in charge of your own future there, and everybody else on their own path, and you really do have to tailor your messaging and push it up there because nobody else is going to do it for you, right? So yeah.
Cloud that in.
What was the hardest part of getting from 0 to where you are now?
Yeah, I think the hardest part, I think that took the most time for us because we had a technical team already. So that wasn't hard finding. We had investor resources. So that's just our starting point, right? From that vantage, it's just getting traction and getting known in the Solana ecosystem because we weren't really known. Just getting breaking in there and finding the key people that do trust you, that do think your product is good and are able to help you propel yourself further, right? So, some of our seed investors are really, really helpful in gaining traction in specific geographies in the world. And you really need them to really propel yourself to get into the ecosystem because a lot of this is reliant on like, how many people know about your project and getting your message forward. Just being on Twitter is enough. I highly recommend meeting people in person because that's really the only way to build trust, as well as going to like events like, Accelerate, like Breakpoint on that side, and just getting your product out there so more people know about it.
How many times did you hear no or were told that this was a bad idea or wasn't worth pursuing?
Surprisingly, so given Titan has a direct competitor and a very established PMF, the more of that side is how can we make people believe that we have a better price as well as get enough marketing traction, right? I think the better price portion, how we convince people was just the technical expertise of the team's background. Now, the marketing portion is where people usually fall apart on. It's like you just have to keep pushing the message, and if your sale is good enough where you're actively convincing people like why you can succeed versus your competitors, how you can get enough traction, then that is the key. But I would say the success rate on that was probably like 30 to 40%, which is actually very high. Like my interview success rate back in the day was probably like 1%, and that's probably more emblematic, especially if you're building a blue ocean project that nobody's ever built before. Then you're gonna have to convince people why like people really need it, why it can't be copied immediately, and like how you're gonna scale up on your plan. Yeah.
So what I realize is that investors and especially like government people or people in general, when you speak of blockchain, they connected that directly to crypto, and most of them say, "Oh, it's a scam" and things like that. If we have a project, so for you, your project was specifically for crypto and trading, that's understandable. But if we have, for example, a health app or something like Airbnb that works on blockchain, it's not directly related to crypto or anything like that. But what do you think is the most challenging thing in having investors to convince them or talking to government about getting like some, I don't know, loan or something, to convince them that, blockchain is a system and not that much related to crypto, that they have in mind right now?
Yeah, I would say the key for that is just meet as many people as you can, right? And just talk about it and feel out what their perspective on crypto is. If it's too hard set, there's really no point in continuing. But you just have to find that one champion who will keep bringing you up internally within their organizations. And there's always going to be that one person, even at a bank, even at a government, there's one person that's dabbling in crypto or is very open to experimenting with new ideas. I think similarly in the Canadian financial space, right? Most people don't touch crypto, but the guys who do, the guys who are willing to experiment, will get you those ins, will get you those introductions, where you can try and push your product through on that side. But it's mainly like finding that champion to really guide you through their, how to act internally on that side. It's definitely going to be a harder push, and I think you do need at least some traction in order to raise investor money if you're pushing towards that crowd. You just have to show some evidence of traction that these organizations are adopting blockchains.
How important is community building for products in crypto? Like whether it's like a Discord or a Telegram or Twitter, etc. Like how much did you focus on that when you had those early users and you wanted to like keep retention? Like on feeling like they were part of something early, etc. Because obviously a lot of products have like, you know, whether it's airdrop farming or rewards for early users, etc. But like just trying to tell people like, hey, your user 120 or you're very early to this, like and making them feel like they're a part of the community. Like, did you guys do a lot of that at Titan?
Yeah, we did. So I guess the main thing on those is that you have to be very careful on who is actually like going to be a core contributor or like a core driver of the product, because you have a lot of guys that just come in and just say things hoping for the airdrop portion. That's why we found like going out and finding pre-seed investors or people who really like your product and inviting them into, you know, a private Telegram chat where you could just bounce ideas to show the product off. That's extremely critical. Even if it's not like fully well polished, just getting the idea and just having these guys that really believe in your product at the beginning is important. And I think at the beginning, most of that is going to be coming from people you meet in person, because on the internet, most of them are just going to be airdrop farmers, to be honest. Like as you get your product out there more and more, you'll start developing like a loyal following, and you just need the metrics, because not everybody will be on Discord on those Telegram chats, but you just need a way to get them together to feel like, you know, that they're part of an ultimate goal. Even if you don't have to communicate them or bring them into Discord chat, you set the goal of, you know, like trying better prices. In our case, or just always trying to get a better edge. It lets them feel like they're part of a movement. That's more important, I would say, than a community, like an internal Discord community on that side. Now, if you have an NFT project, that switches completely. So that's where I want everybody talking on Discord more. So it's really dependent on what you're building.
I guess as a follow-up to that, like how is there anyone on the founding team that has like really good graphic design chops, like, or is that something that can just be picked up as a founder, non-technical or technical? Because like when you're doing Twitter comms or when you're just trying to make things look really official, that's something I'm struggling with right now. It's like I either need to hire someone to like do really good graphic design to be engaging, or I just got to pick it up myself with like Figma and AI tooling. Any recommendations there?
So on the founding team, everybody was a backend developer. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because like, you know, front end was not a thought process. If you're working at a hedge fund, all you care about is does it execute? Yeah, on that side. So you know, we just tossed in a guy at the beginning, because I don't think spending money on like, you know, very clean graphic design, unless that's your core product, really matters at the beginning. You're just trying to get the word out there. People just read about it. I think, you know, building a nicer looking front end or a nicer looking design can come afterwards, and that can really say like, if you guys don't have that experience, I would rather you go look for outside agencies to try and help you. Like Airfoil, for example, helps us a lot on design work on that side. They are very professional. Phil is very, very good, and their entire team knows a lot. Like, I think Min, who is also a co-founder at Airfoil, is originally from Toronto as well. So there's more Canadian connections on that side. I'd say like just concentrate on the product, unless design is the product here, and then you can take a look afterwards. Just slap up something and just try and push it out. I think AI helps a lot these days.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So for startup founders new to the scene of crypto and Web3, without networks, so technical founder, for example, what's the best way to do outreach to potential customers? Is it like cold email in the space in crypto, or is there through networking or through other means?
So I really believe that the best way for crypto is personal networking on that side. So like, you know, I will just go on, the Telegram chats, like Super Team in particular on that side, and just try to meet people personally, whether at Vibe Station, whether in other portions of Toronto, for local networking, right? Because then you get lots of perspective. I don't think like cold email works that hard, even cold Telegram messages, unless you're part of a group already. Like warm introductions are always the best, and to really get that, I think you have to be in person to meet the guy first, right? To see if you vibe. So I highly do recommend, like, even if you like, I would say like Breakpoint is coming up. That's a very good conference to meet more and more people, to put yourself out there, try and build out that initial network to get you introduced to like more and more people within the ecosystem. But also Accelerate is probably going to be in New York again. There's going to be more conferences held within Canada, within Toronto, within the US. So those are also ideal locations to really meet everybody that's in the ecosystem as much as possible, right? Also, just seeing the NFT communities, especially monkeys, as well as Malads, are very, very strong. They give you a very good introduction base. Bias Toronto monkeys are having dim sum tomorrow, so if you have a monkey, to sign up. Yeah.
I see, thank you.
Monkeys are good. I have a question as well. You mentioned that because of your team, it was very easy to, or it was easier to convince investors or whatever that you were going to get the best price and all that. But using the app, you've also managed to convince your actual users of that by showing the price, the best price change, and even admitting when, say, Jupiter for a couple of seconds has a better price than you. That I think that's one of the core things that I just loved about Titan right off the bat, is that level of honesty and transparency. How do you, your whole thing is like get a better price and keep things simple. How do you make choices, like feature choices, to say, hey, why don't we just show that whole battle of prices going on beneath? Like, what is it? Is it just testing a bunch of different features, or did that just come out of the gate? Like, what's your process there as a company?
For us, it's just really experimentation on that side. So like we landed on this first. I guess the team trusts me because like this was my role at the funds too, in terms of turning product decisions, or the equivalent of product decisions back then. So we just threw this up first and just saw what the feedback was, right? That's why having your like core group of guys that really know your product as well as how the industry will perceive it is important, because as soon as you release something that really clicks with people, they'll tell you about it. And really, I think it's up to you to decide what that killer feature is, right? That's a job of, the CEO or whoever's in charge of the product to really lead the charge. And like, there might be different opinions, but just try experiment first. But the other thing is that you only have a limited number of tries as well, right? Time is a factor, so you do have to be skilled at trying to pick out, it's like, what would appeal the most to your user base.
Would you recommend landing an angel check first or a lead investor check? Or like if you feel like you have warm leads in both directions, would you try and go for strategic angels first, or would you try and get leads first? Like as far as like first check, not like a soft commit, like actually, like USDC to the bank account.
I would go for angels on that side, because you do have to be careful on more institutional checks. Most of them disappear on that side, because the ones that will help you, especially at the start, depending on your traction and when you're raising, right? Most of them will just give you money and disappear. You want to make sure that they help you as much as possible. And the ones that get serious about that are probably at like higher valuation stages than when you're just starting out. So I'd say just having like, your pre-seed investors or your angel checks come in is probably more important personally, right? That's been my experience there.
And what was your turnaround from like first check to close round? Was it like a few months? Like, was it quick?
Honestly, like we just the second that we get committed, we just send out the papers, right? Because if you just wait the 3 months,
No. I mean like from first check to last check.
like start to
Close
lie.
it, close it.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the pre-seed one, it's a while on that
It's a
side.
while,
In order to collect it, it also depends how much you want to raise. That was like 3-4 month process.
Yep.
The seed round one, as soon as you get to the institutional stages, once you get a lead investor, it becomes very simple, because the lead investor does all the due diligence. Also, Asia VCs and Middle Eastern VCs will just pile on the money if their lead investor is good. They don't, like, people don't care at that stage. Like, they trust that the DD has been done.
So, I want to go back to the sales part. So the very first thing you mentioned.
Yeah.
How do you, let's say you think that you're not that good at sales. How do you get better at it? Like, did you do some kind of training? Did you talk to yourself in the mirror or something? Or did you just try selling someone a pen or something? How
No.
do you get better at it?
Just keep talking to people, keep talking about your product and see what clicks with them, right? And then just try and change your approach. I think it's this iteration. It's like, if I, for example, I'm playing like a video game and like an RTS, and I'm just trying to see what I did wrong, I'll look at the replay. So just think about your interaction, see like what you could do better, what like turn off a person, what turn on a person. That's why I think it's just practice. Like public speech isn't that hard, but as with everything, it's just all practice and just getting your comfort zone. Because if you don't practice it, then it's not going to be good in the end.
Someone having a startup or launching it completely, right? On blockchain specifically. So what was the hardest lesson you learned for developing something on blockchain specifically? Like I know one of them is that 1 year in blockchain looks like 5 years in something else, but what are other things
Well, I think with
specifically for blockchain?
I think with blockchain, you just have to be on 24/7. There's like no down period. If you need a down period, that means your infrastructure is just like not working for users that may want to try to trade it, right? Because if this was a traditional market, I'm working between like 9:30 to 4. Upgrades could be done before or after then, and you could test it out. But with crypto, everything's just continuously moving, so you always have to be on your toes, and that's why I think it's more draining on blockchain founders, just because it's just if your infrastructure goes down on Saturday at 3 a.m., it doesn't matter, you just have to get it back up. So I think that's probably the most challenging thing with blockchains. The benefit of blockchains and the drawback is that it is on 24/7 with no recourse. So
Yeah, I know. I worked at like a crypto exchange, so I know.
yeah,
You're always there.
so I guess regarding the question on thanks, Orange. Question on the chat. I guess they were asking, can you speak to projects / companies trying to do too many things at the same time versus delivering a solid MVP and building from there? I think you have to find your core feature. If you have too many multiple features, that's only something really a conglomerate can really do. That's what only really Jupiter can do in this space right now. And like, it's not clear to me that they're better than this guy specializing in it. So I would really say is like focus on your core product, your core feature that will bring users over. Because if you have too many things at once, it's like you're just gonna be a generalist, and why would a person invest at you? Because like I wouldn't use your product for anything if it's too general at that stage, unless again, there are caveats to this. Like there may be exceptions, but that's just a general rule there.
Question from the audience. Can you speak to projects / companies trying to do too many things at the same time versus?
Yeah, just answered that.
Just answered that. Sorry, you're ahead of me. I was busy trying to get that pinned. In terms of staying resilient, given that crypto blockchain is like 24/7, always on, how do you maintain your well-being and balance that sort of like needing to always be on, trying to work harder, trying to sell even when maybe selling isn't what comes naturally to you? How do you maintain a balance and stay, I guess, positive? What are the core things that you lean on or do to maintain that optimistic mindset and keep going?
Yeah, so I think the main thing here is to find people that can help you, because there's no way that you can really be on 24/7. So that's why we rely heavily on a team. Like you can still take vacations on that side. I can still, turn off for a couple hours while other people are still on, and everybody just helps out on that side. I think that's the most important, just finding your own time to explore other things or just like wind down and relax a little bit. But in crypto, that does require other people to take over on that side. So this also applies if you have an international team, like taking over the Asia time region is very important as well, because nobody likes being woken up at 3 a.m. in the morning. So there's that. The other thing is just like consistently be positive, because I think this is an opportunity that has an asymmetric return. If crypto keeps taking off, it's going to be like very rewarding for everybody. The risk is, it's always there, but I think the return is a lot higher, and that's something very rare in the West that you can take advantage of. Usually most of these opportunities are in Asia, but now like since everybody has this chance, I would just participate as much as possible, right? With that, I think you have to be prepared, like always be prepared, because I think people don't, how do I phrase this? People, you just always have to be prepared to seize the moment because, people always say like you got lucky, but you have to be prepared to take advantage of that moment in time, right? So just always just trying to look at new things, look at new opportunities, be ready to pivot, just be flexible, just don't get married to a thing. Always just try and get ready for the next movement, whatever it is. So like if something's not working out, see what else you can move into on the pivot side and just keep everything optimistic because crypto is still early and everybody has more chances to keep on trying more and more things.
Whether it's like a user, a VC, or an angel, let's say you've had like they've tried your product out, and then you're trying to, they didn't retain, they're not using it anymore. When do you stop hitting them up? What is the point where you're like, okay, I should back off here? And like maybe that's a different answer for a user versus like a VC or an angel, but like, are you persistent? Do you mind being annoying? Just thoughts on that.
Yeah, so like for a VC, I'll probably just ping them once because
Yeah.
it's either gonna be yes or no
Yep.
at that stage.
They also usually don't say no. They say, they like say no without saying no, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Sometimes they say yes, and it's also.
It's also
For users, I would just like ping them a couple times and no responses, then it's fine on
Yeah.
that side. For customers, so, just try and be annoying as possible until like no responses come back at all.
Yeah.
Like I guess it's your job to follow up and your job to find a balance per type of user. Some
Yeah.
people like that high touch, like consistently messaging to follow up. Some people hate it. So really dependent on the culture of the person as well, right? And what their personality is. It's just really hard to tailor it. No really hard set solution there unless it's institutional, because most institutional is not the same.
right. I guess the follow up with that would be is let's say you ship something, you got someone to try it and they were like, I liked it, but we're missing, I feel like it could use this and this. And then you ship those features and you're like, hey, I gotta follow up with this person, right? Like, should you always like keep kind of a list of the people that clearly had some level of interest, but you didn't retain them, and then you ship something else, and then you're gonna try and retain them. Are the stakes and they're pretty low to just bother someone, right? Especially if it's a user.
Yeah,
So
no,
just go
just
for it.
just send it, just go
Yeah.
for it because like at worst they ignore it, right? It's no big deal.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, and at best you just get a user who's now loyal because like you're actually responding to their feedback.
Mhm.
So it's no loss on your side rather than just a message that takes maybe 10 seconds to draft up. So
Yeah, yeah. And you've also seen the reverse of that with like the Shane Copeland polymarket thing. Like everyone's like, he DM'd me in 2021 and I never responded.
Yeah.
So like there's, there could be an opportunity where, you DM a bunch of people and years down the line, they're like checking their receipts and they're like, shit, why didn't I respond to that? So there really is I feel like there's no downside.
there's no downside.
Yeah.
There's no downside at all. And like to be honest, like, if you ever look for raise another project, it's not like they're gonna remember if they didn't respond. So you're gonna keep bugging them if you have other things coming on the pipeline.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm just reading Orange's post here. So yeah, so in regards to comparing versus Jupiter, just competing against Jupiter, it does change how you would approach both the sales as well as what features you want to push on the product. On the sales side of things, you can either you tap into people who don't like seeing Jupiter expand into different ecosystems. That's your big selling point. Honestly, if I was Jupiter, I would be doing everything that Jupiter is doing right now on that side. Like I think that's a classic playbook if you're running a bigger tech company on that front. But then as somebody trying to compete versus the fully transparent, just rallying the community behind you and just trying to build that coalition is what we really chose to go with, right? And that's why I think you see that quotes table coming up. That's why we partner with a lot of projects. That's why I think we're getting a lot of traction and integrations with a lot of people. So that's like the sales process. That's what really drove the feature development. And it all leads into the same thing, right? It's like, how can you convince people to invest in your company and use your product? And that directly leads into what features that you want to build out. The first thing here is like people were looking for an alternative Jupiter. People didn't think they were getting a better price. That led into I'm going to display how you get the better price transparently. And then that also leads into making sure that you collect everybody else except Jupiter and showing the quotes on there. So that's really how we develop there on that side. So sales does lead really into everything. It's like what can you really figure that your users actually want?
Since this is a very this is a hackathon kind of focused talk, right? A lot of the feedback that say you get from judges right around now is and in other hackathons it's like, don't build another chatbot, don't build a marketplace. And I would think you would even get like oh, you guys are building a aggregator, like a Jupyter competitor. It seems crazy. Like it's such an undertaking. It's so impressive that you guys have gotten this far. Um, what what would you say to the people who want to do something that's been done very well, like in Jupyter's case, that to go up against all odds, uh, these big companies or these saturated markets, but still want to go in and try to do something better?
Yeah, so I think there's three things. I'll just try listing them all. First thing is like, can you offer an improvement on this? All right, because I think nobody's gonna be using your product if something already exists and yours is just not far better on that side. The second one is really how hard is it for them to copy? Because it's going to take time for you to grow your user base. It's going to take time to get traction going on. And in that meantime, like these guys aren't sleeping at the wheel either. They're taking a look at what else is in the ecosystem. And your thing is extremely easy to copy. If it takes me 2 or 3 weeks to just build out our own feature, then that's not really a moat. That's what these guys are looking at. Because like from the point of view from Coliseum, right? Like Maddie, Nate, this is also a VC funding operation as well. They're looking for projects to invest in. Coliseum is actually like a VC incubator on that side. So what you're really getting to do is like, what product, what makes you different, what makes you better, how can you really defend that moat, and how can you return money to investors? So that's really the thing there. I guess the third thing is just like the spinning up that story, because even if you have a better product that's defensible, you can't really convince people why with a very good narrative as well as like your marketing strategy to attract people over. Then that's very hard. In the case of us, a DEX aggregator with better prices is a pretty simple story. But then in the case of, let's say, like Camino, or you're doing a lending product, TVL as well as like how battle tested your smart contracts are do matter quite a bit. So that pitch is going to be far different from ours. So
This might be a question you won't answer, or a dumb question, but like, do you guys ever lose money on a trade as like a cost of acquisition? Is that something that happens, or no?
So like we just facilitate trades through
Right.
Adexis, so we don't
Yeah.
lose money.
Yeah.
Like we do reward some of our VIP traders on that side, where we just let them use Galaxy's transaction propagation service for free on a limited amount of times, just based on the volume you're doing, right? So I think it's gets to that point of trying to retain your high value users,
Mhm.
just trying to form that community on that side. Like taking a loss on some users is totally fine in order to make sure that they keep coming onto your platform and driving other ways for you to monetize.
Yep.
Okay, final question. If you could give one key piece of advice to someone who tried what you have now done and failed, or gave up, but wanted to try again with something new, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I would say it's like keep all your options on the table. Just keep meeting more and more people, right? Because fail like having a thing not succeed isn't the end. There's always room for improvement. You can always figure out like what you did wrong and then just try and improve on that. And then always just making sure you're ready to take advantage of the next opportunity you see, because you may meet your next co-founder. Like for example, Solana Legend from Frictionless. It took him a while to meet Logan on that side. You have to find an ideal partner to really accelerate yourself. So always just meeting more and more people, just keeping up to up to the present on where the industry is, and just always trying to figure out new ideas what you can improve on. I think just being ready to take advantage of anything that may come up in the space is probably your most important thing to do, even if just don't let your setbacks define you, right? Just use them to improve yourself.
Awesome, thank you. All right, with that, I will say thank you so much, Chris. This was a very insightful talk. Thank you to everyone who participated with questions. And if anyone wanted to reach you for more questions, should they just at you on Twitter?
Yeah,
Or
you should just at me on Twitter or just like at me on the Solana Canada chat. So
sounds good. All right, thank you.
thanks.